Jaden McDaniels, another
Mm.
podcast favorite. There are some players who are transcendent defensively, but you have to watch them very closely to understand what they do, and you probably won't even ever understand what they do. And like a Draymond Green.
Yep.
Jaden McDaniels, I feel like you just watch and immediately sense how dominant he can be defensively. I forgot he didn't make the all-defense team, and I don't know if he made my list, but if I didn't put him on there, I think it's egregious because I was going back and watching stuff of him from last season, and he was caps lock dominant on the defensive end. But he's also shown a bunch of flashes on the offensive end. And my question to you is sort of twofold. Is there room for him to branch out offensively on this team? Or are we like, should he be prepping for maybe even a usage decline because Karl-Anthony Towns was not playing for so much of last year?
So that he is my favorite player as much as I've promoted Reid and all these guys. Like Jaden McDaniels, I think is the coolest story. I don't know if you ever Google this stuff. Like you can see that like certain sites have a 2027 NBA mock draft right now. I don't know who the hell these kids are. They're freshmen in high school, but you can see that. There are mock drafts dating back to 5 years before 2020 where Jaden McDaniels was the first overall player mocked in drafts. He was a 5-star kid out of high school, goes to Washington, poor coaching, gets a lot of technical fouls, falls in the draft, gets selected like 28th in 2020, and he in 3 years has become, and again, you watch probably more national around the league than I do, like I think he might be the best perimeter defender in the league, if not one of the top 5. And then something that just adds to him is that feels like most perimeter guys that can defend really well are the Paul George 6'8", 6'9" wingspan. I think he's like 6'11" now.
And he also how tall is he now?
I mean, when I was at media day and he stands next to Rudy, it's like, are they the same size? And I know Rudy's north of 7 feet. So if he's 6'11", he's also, and a lot of the advanced metrics back this up, he might be this. Rudy's still the best rim protector on the team, but Jaden is right there, number 2. So if your best perimeter defender is also just an elite rim protector, and then to go back to what you said, like he's kind of nasty with the ball in his hands a little bit. Like he can score, he can get to the rim. He loves the mid range. They don't ask him to do that. And honestly, talking to coaches and stuff, like he's about to get paid really handsomely, like Ant did. It's a tough negotiation because you don't just throw the max at him like you would a Desmond Bane or an Ant. But if you're his representation, you're like, well, why wouldn't you? Like I'm the whole reason that the Rudy Gobert trade looks bad, because instead of, trading me in the package and keeping 2 or 3 firsts, you had to give all those extra firsts because you made me untouchable. I've been the best defender in the team. I'm not like a malcontent. Yes, he did punch a wall. Let's move forward from that. But like
constructed wall.
Yeah, so he's not really asking for the ball more. So I think you're going to see him just skyrocket in terms of salary. But you actually said something that Finch told us is like, I don't think there's much more room for him to grow offensively for now, right? And again, this is going to look totally different every other year because if you unload Karl next summer, now you have this big chunk of the pie that someone has to eat, and I think Jaden would get some of that. But if Jaden McDaniels goes from making, I think he makes less than Wendell Moore right now. I don't know, like, so if he goes to making $30 million a year, don't expect him to then be like giving you 18 and 10. Because they don't really need 18 and 10. They got a lot of other guys that can score and rebound, but they need him on the perimeter to guard the best player on the other team. There is, again, a viral clip of him and Ant basically taking Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving and putting them in prison last year. And when those two guys are locked in, I do struggle to find, Kawhi and Paul George still probably the best, but there's not many 2-guard or 2-man lineups that can just defend the perimeter. So the world is at that man's fingertips. He's about to get paid. I don't know how much you follow this, but I think the deadline is the 23rd of October. I don't know if he'll get the deal done by then, which would then leak into restricted free agency next summer. But he has every negotiation aspect at his fingertips. He can basically demand the world, and the team's just trying to figure out how do we just cut that to 90% because we can't afford to lose this player.
Yeah, and my question to you is going to be, do you think an extension gets done? And I guess the more pressing question is, what are the Wolves negotiating over right now? Because I understand if they were headed for cap flexibility, they want to preserve his small hold. They're not. They're going to run into, I know this is taboo on the Day More podcast at the moment, but like they're going to run into second apron issues this next summer. So it's just like if he gets on the open market, his teams are, and I've been pretty critical of this. I think they're cowards for not going harder after opposing restricted free agents. I don't care that you just tied up your cap space for 36 hours or whatever it is now, the new CBA. Make teams pay more to keep their own play. Like I love that gamesmanship. Jaden McDaniels is somebody that other teams, regardless of their timeline, will go and they will throw a max offer sheet to, barring anything like catastrophic this season. So if you're the Wolves, like if he's willing to sign the Devin Vassell deal, $135 million guaranteed with the potential $12 million in incentives or whatever it is, why are you not just inking him to that? I know Vassell's better on offense, but you just outlaid not just why Jaden McDaniels is better on defense than Devin Vassell, but why he is like top 5. That's putting it probably like being too conservative. And I'm saying is like he is a top 5 perimeter defender, and he might just be the best perimeter defender. Like you can get into Herb and OG Anunoby and these other guys. He's up there and he's so important. It's like what are they waiting for? What are they haggling over here?
I'll tell you this right now. This is pretty sourced. If they could put Devin Vassell's contract in front of Jaden and have him sign it, they would be over the moon. Okay. So I think that is like the starting point when he and his representation walk into Tim Conley's office. And again, if you're a Spurs fan and you want to get into the minutia of Jaden versus Devin Vassell, I totally get it. I just don't think you can compare them because they're getting asked to do different things. But I'm with you. To answer your question, we have 5 days. I don't think a deal will get done because I think both sides, the Wolves would say it's just so hard to figure out your value. You're probably maybe worth a max, but we would just love to have any sort of savings we can. You're right that the second apron's going to nuke them 5 different ways from Sunday, but like if they can just find a little discount, right? Just some sort of discount. That's how you do inevitably go find a Shake Milton or a Troy Brown Jr. or a Nickeil. Like every dollar matters, especially when you're financially in the situation the Wolves are. And for him, I think he's probably just like, okay, let's wait. I will say I am so with you. And when you said the restricted free agency stuff, I think of Austin Reeves. His situation was obviously a little different, but
no, shame on everybody.
Shame on 1,000%. But I do wonder if the Wolves look at Austin Reeves and think, well, if we get into restricted free agency and these teams have shown no backbone and just coming out on July 1st and saying, here's a max deal, maybe they're like, and to Tim Connolly's point, the one thing I'll say, and this ties everything in, he has never felt pressure to do something. He makes the Rudy Gobert trade, and everyone at that time last summer was like, well, you've got your 4 starters, Karl, Rudy, Ant, and Jaden. You got to give D'Lo the bag, lock him up, and put it all the pieces together. He's like, why would I have to do that now? He waited until, I think, the Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific time before the trade deadline, held the Lakers and Jazz kind of hostage, and made this move, gets Nickeil, gets draft picks, get Mike Conley. Same with Naz Reid. It's like, you got to re-sign Naz during the season. I think it was 36 hours before free agency started, he gets the deal done. So I think he might be comfortable letting this leak out as well. I don't think Jaden will be a problem. I don't think he's, for the football fans, I don't think he's going full TJ Hawkinson here with the Vikings saying my ear hurts, I can't play. Right. But it's the one domino, man, that I think about a lot, because without him, I don't think a lot of the other stuff really matters, and that's crazy for a guy that averages like 10-4.
Yeah, look, anything below the max, I would sign him to in a heartbeat. And if it's the max, I might understand them saying, well, then we're just going to wait to sign you. But I always worry when you're already tapped out, like the goodwill, just build it with the player who's this important.